Is the upcoming presidential debate, scheduled to begin just hours from now, something we should be taking seriously? Or is it just another sign that we're under judgment? Or maybe a little bit of both? Stay tuned. Well, good evening and welcome back to another episode of Explain, another week where we engage the culture from a biblical perspective in a manner which glorifies God. And boy, this week are we engaging the culture. Just hours from now, as I just mentioned, the first presidential debate between the two presidential candidates, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, will be starting. And one thing that I've heard several times from, I think, all sorts of different people is basically that this upcoming election is a lost cause and Christians shouldn't pay attention to it and Christians shouldn't care about it and Christians shouldn't worry about it, and it's not even really something that we should be participating in or paying attention to. I've seen this perspective. I've seen this perspective primarily from people who would, who we would say they're in Big Eva. They wouldn't call themselves that, but they are. People who, they advocate for, a sort of political theory where you're retreating from what's going on, where politics is just so hard and so difficult to figure out that Christians shouldn't even give any time to trying to figure it out, right? Like this is your David French, Russell Moore, Christianity Today. Those types oftentimes will say things like that to you. We're actually going to be looking at something that one of these types of people said in a little bit today. There's also another group that I want to be very careful in the way that I address this. There's also another group that says that Donald Trump specifically isn't conservative enough to receive their vote, specifically on issues like the pro-life issue. Like we know, and I'll just come right out and say it. Donald Trump says that he is a pro-life candidate. In reality, Donald Trump is just as much of a pro-life candidate as Nebraska is a border, a state on the border of the U.S. It's not true. It's not true. Is he less pro-choice than Joe Biden? Oh, of course he is, and it's not even a question, right? Is there freedom, or was there freedom with President Trump to push for things that actually save children's lives? Yes, there was freedom for that, and that's something that we can be thankful for. But let's not kid ourselves. Donald Trump is not interested in abolishing all abortion. He's just not. But anyway, so there's you could tell that I have my 2 cents on that too. But anyway, there's a group that basically views that issue and some other issues as well with Trump, and says he's actually not conservative enough on those issues, so they won't vote for anybody. And I want to be very clear that I don't want to group those two groups that I just kind of outlined to you in with each other, because they're about as far apart from each other as can be. You would never catch, the group that the Big Eva group in with the people that think Trump is not conservative enough. You'd never catch those two people in the same room together. It's just not. You wouldn't see it. But anyway, there are people, suffice it to say, that believe that Christians should not be voting for anybody in this election, this upcoming election. I'd like to demonstrate why I don't think that that's the greatest perspective to have. And again, I'm going to try to be very careful as I go throughout this to distinguish between the group that I mentioned first, that I would say is part of Big Eva, that basically is just trying to trick Christians into allowing another a liberal candidate to get into office. That's really what it is. Let's just be honest, okay? So there's that group. And then there's another group, like I said, this group that thinks that Trump is not conservative enough. I think that they are really doing this with a good heart. They really are looking out for the good of America. And so, like, when I talk about people not getting engaged in politics, I'm not talking about them. I want to make that very clear, okay? My focus in this episode is not aimed at the people who don't think that Trump is conservative enough. Let them hold that opinion. I'm not going to get up in their business about that. The people that I'm really focusing on here is the people who, like I said, think that politics are just too difficult for us to get involved in, and that's just why should Christians even think about this? And basically trying to get Christians to turn a blind eye to what's going on, while we know that the should I say the liberal end of the United States is definitely going to turn up to vote this year. We know. So what happens is basically these people in, like I said, in Big Eva, they try to get Christians to not vote, so that what happens? Well, all the people on the other side vote, and then a liberal candidate gets into office. One example of this, I don't want to spend too much time on this. One example of this is, I think it's called the After Party. It's a course, I guess, that's put out by David French and Russell Moore and Curtis Chang. And basically what they're doing is they're advocating for this type of approach to politics where Christians, you shouldn't have to get involved in politics. You don't have to think about politics. We're going to do all the thinking for you and then just regurgitate it for you to just have. And then you can, you can take that and accept what we regurgitated to you as your political worldview. The only problem is their political worldview is very, very leftist. And not only is it leftist, but it's not a worldview that's in line with the scriptures. So that would be one example of that type of approach. Anyway, so like I said, we stand with all that set up for you. We stand on the cusp of the presidential debate in just a couple hours. And I wanted to address this post here. Now, I don't know where this screenshot. I don't know whether this person may have received an email from Curtis Chang or from Curtis Chang's ministry. I don't know, but here's the post. This post is by Chase Davis, who I like a lot of what he has to say. His podcast is called Foolproof Theology. I like a lot of the stuff that he has to say. A lot of the guests that he brings on are pretty cool. So Chase Davis says, Curtis Chang would rather watch the latest Game of Thrones episode than the presidential debate. And I got to admit, when I saw Chase Davis post this, I thought, man, that can't be real. That you're going to tell me that a Christian is actually going to say something like that. Are you serious? And then you look through the letter that the email that Curtis Chang sent, a note for you from Curtis Chang, it says, the note that Curtis Chang wrote. And yes, he did actually say that, believe it or not. I'm very disappointed, but yes, he said that. So this is what Curtis Chang has to say. A letter to you from the team at Redeeming Babel. And then it says, a note for you from Curtis Chang. Just for you, Chase Davis, right? No, we know it's not. It's not just for anybody. Curtis Chang is really trying to move the needle here, unfortunately. Good morning. Here's a question for you. Are you planning to watch the upcoming Trump-Biden debate? I've been weighing the question for myself. As the host of a podcast that includes politics in our topic rotation, and as the co-author of a book on how to move towards better Christian politics, I suppose that watching the debate should be something of a professional responsibility for me. All right, let's keep going. Let me actually, I need to clarify something. Chase Davis is posting this not in support of Curtis Chang, but he's posting this just to show people the craziness of what Curtis Chang is up to. So I want to be clear on that. Let's keep going. Here's the thing. I really don't want to. I'd rather watch the latest Game of Thrones episode for entertainment, catch an MLB game to see how my fantasy baseball team is faring, or attend to my playlist on Spotify with Andy Crouch's advice in mind on how to get the most out of listening to music. But Trump versus Biden? What could I possibly get out of that content stream? It's a rerun. We know the plot. We know the lines that will be uttered, and it's not even a rerun of a series that most of us really enjoyed the first time. Yeah, okay. Let me just say that back, I don't know, more than 2 minutes ago, when we actually cared in America, when most people actually cared in America in good faith about trying to have the country go in the right direction, people didn't look at debates as a source of entertainment. Again, this is one thing that does bother me about these current debates and the way that they're structured, is that they're designed to get just like clips, right? These little clips of people, freaking out on each other. But here's the thing. This basically Curtis Chang has fallen into that consumer mindset where it doesn't matter whether whether it's going to be entertaining or exciting for you, or whether or not it's going to be more entertaining than Game of Thrones or the MLB game or something. It's not about entertainment, really. It's about you as a citizen who has the freedom to vote still. You have the opportunity to hear the ideas of of these people. Now, we'll get into those two people a little bit, and in a little while. But let me just say that, okay? That's important. Many feel outright antipathy about one of the characters and disturbing ambivalence about the other. And even if one is actually a fan of this show, is this true for anybody out there? What's the purpose of rewatching? What can I actually gain at this point? I've been thinking about this question for several days and have found some flaws in my own thinking and come up with a viewing plan in light of the truths we unpack in the after party. And then it just says, keep reading for more from Curtis Chang. So Curtis Chang seems to come to the conclusion here that he should watch this, or he should at least, you should watch through his viewing plan, right? It's funny. But here's the problem. The way that this is framed is actually going to cause, and this is the thing, this is the play. Yes, maybe Curtis Chang will be tuning in, but what this is designed to do is to get the recipients of his letter to say, nah, not important. I'm not going to watch. This is not important for me, right? That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to get you to feel just like everything else that this camp is putting out recently. It's designed to get you to feel like it's not important, like it doesn't matter, like you shouldn't do anything about it. And so the question that we have to ask is, as Christians, do we have a responsibility to do something about the world in front of us? Should we take advantage of the opportunities that have been given us in this constitutional republic in which we live, and should we take advantage of those? Should we act in light of the freedoms that we've been given? Should we act based off of those? Should we take those freedoms and act in accordance with them? Should we vote? Should we pay attention to the debates? And I get it. Now, politics is not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not saying it has to be your cup of tea. But what I'm saying is, if it is your cup of tea, then don't let blabber like this make you want to tune out. Don't let someone telling you that they'd rather watch an MLB game or something like that make you want to tune out. All right? And this goes for the wider context of what's going on too, because you're not going to just hear this about this debate. You're going to hear people say, oh, well, it's not important about the whole entire presidential race. And then what are you going to do? Just back out of the whole thing? No, you shouldn't do that. That's not something that we should be doing. All right? Let's keep going. I mean, this is something that we have to think about in light of the debate. Now, what I'm really interested in is, of course, there have been these episodes that people have posted of Joe Biden kind of freezing up, just I don't know if it was a mental lapse or something, or I don't know. But just pretty concerning videos about maybe his health, just clips of him just kind of mentally freezing up maybe. I'm very interested to see how he's going to react. It does seem like Trump is quite a bit more mentally aware than Joe Biden is. So that is important, and it is interesting. I don't know. Of course, Curtis Chang is never going to exactly come out and say what he means by something. But if he's saying that that people feel a certain way towards one person and then a certain way, did you notice that? Let's pull that post back up. I want you to see this. Many feel outright antipathy about one of the characters and disturbing ambivalence about the other. I don't know if that was meant to be aimed at one person or the other. Like, was antipathy meant to characterize Trump and ambivalence meant to characterize the other, Biden? I don't know. I'm not gonna import that meaning into what Curtis Chang is saying. But I will say that this is not an even scale. I do really think that this needs to be said, and we talked about this before. There was more freedom to fight for the right of the unborn, the rights of the unborn when Trump was in office. Now, did we do as much as we could have? I don't know. Maybe we didn't. Maybe there was, and of course you need cooperation at the state level and stuff and all that, and there just wasn't that cooperation as much. But at least at the federal level, you have that ability to fight for, for the rights of the unborn more than you currently have, where there are people who are pro-life who are literally being thrown into prison. Under the presidency of Joe Biden. So there you go. There is a pretty stark difference. Joe Biden is very openly pro-choice. Trump, like I said, he's not the greatest pro-life candidate ever. I would say, if you were to walk up to a pro-lifer from 30, 40 years ago and say, is Trump pro-life? They'd say absolutely not. So let that be said. But it's not an even scale. Okay, it's not an even scale. Biden getting back into office would be far more disastrous for the direction of this country, for the direction of this country, the freedom that Christians have to worship God, to proclaim the gospel in the public square. All of those things, there is a chance, and I'm not saying that this is definitely going to happen, but there is a chance of those things being brought into question if we get another 4 years of Joe Biden. However, I also want to say this. I've seen posts like this one here. So this is Jon Root, and he just says, "Please stop this, please." And this is a video where you can watch it. But this is Representative Green. She is basically campaigning for Trump. And one thing that she says is it's terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. Is she basically compares Trump to Jesus. She says, Trump is a convicted felon. Yeah, well, the God that I worship, the one who I worship, is a convicted felon. Get out of here with that. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. That doesn't make. Let me tell you something, all right? And I'll talk about the scriptural import of this in a second, okay? But the politically, that doesn't help you. That makes Trump look bad. That makes his supporters look bad, and that also makes Christians look bad. So just stop with that, okay? If you're comparing Trump to Jesus, then you got to go back to the Bible and read about Jesus. First of all, the fact that Jesus never sinned, okay? And I don't want anybody being compared to my Lord and Savior, not anybody, all right? And there are people out there who think that they're crazy, but they think that Trump is the Antichrist, and obviously he's not. He's definitely not. But you know what? If they're crazy enough to think that he's the Antichrist, and they're crazy enough to take something like the people, what these people are saying about, oh, Trump is just like Jesus and that he's a convicted felon, and if they're crazy enough to think that Trump is the Antichrist, and they're crazy enough to take things like what Green is saying here and add it as fuel to their fire, right? So it's not helping anybody talking like that, not helping anybody. So that needs to stop. Like Jon Root is saying, it's got to stop. Has to stop. Now, some people will come back at me and say, well, why would you still support him anyway? Because obviously we're going to support, we would encourage you to vote for Trump instead of Biden, right? If you want to be like those people who think that Trump's not conservative enough, be my guest. Go ahead. Don't vote. But I would at least say you can't vote for Joe Biden. Okay. You just can't. But anyway, all that being said, someone might ask me personally, well, how can you still vote for him? Isn't that like idolatry or something? Like I've seen people say things like that. Well, one reason why it's not idolatry is because Trump is not a god or even a false god or a demon or anything like that. Second of all, he's not my God, okay? The reason why there are some very specific and pragmatic reasons why a Christian could support Trump. And I just want to put that out there, to ease your conscience if you're wondering about this, if you're wrestling with this. There are a very few pragmatic reasons. First of all, I saw somebody say, oh, I've got a son in the military and I don't want him to go off to war, and I think that Trump has a better chance of stopping like a war. That's a perfectly reasonable reason to vote, I would say. Another reason that I've seen people give is the fact, like I said, that there's more freedom to fight for pro-life stuff, to fight for the rights of the unborn, which again, I'd say that's a perfectly valid reason as a Christian to vote for Trump. And third of all, the religious freedom and stuff. Christians believe that that there's a better chance of them, being free to publicly proclaim the gospel in the open public square. I'd say that's another valid reason to vote for him. So I just want to make sure that that's being said. Now, some people have said, well, this is just the fact that these two candidates are so horrible is just another sign that we're under judgment and that there's no way out and that we're just on the fast track down the tube and who knows what's going to happen next. And, this is just another sign that we're under judgment, people will say. Right. And to an extent, I would say that if there are many wise people who are saying that, America is already under judgment. And I don't want to push back on that too hard because there is certainly a sense in which America is already showing that they're under judgment. I mean, just think in a Romans 1 sense, right? Romans 1 dictates the different steps that people take on their way to apostasy, right? Where they suppress the truth, right? And then they go worship another god. And then they exchange, male-female relations for like male-male relations or female-female relations, right? And they start to burn with passion for one another and stuff. And like, what month are we in? We're in Pride Month, right? So not only are we doing that, but we're also celebrating the fact that we're doing that, which is, that gets to the end of Romans 1, where they not only allow these things to happen, these things not only happen, but then there's people who give hearty approval to these things, right? So there's a very good case to be made that we're already under judgment because of our behavior as it lines up with Romans 1. Even so, and I think that this applies even if we're under judgment already or even if we're not, the Word of God says that God changes people's hearts. And I think, when you poke your head up as a Christian and you look around and you say, man, we've got Trump, is he really just our best option? Come on. I mean, that's what I was thinking, honestly, when he came out of the primaries. I'm like, come on. Is he the best option that we have? I mean, really? But there you go. That's where we're at. And I do think that there are conscionable reasons that a Christian can vote for Trump here in 2024. That aside, if you as a Christian poke your head up and you look around and you're like, man, the best that we can really put forward is Trump. Come on, and then we've got Biden on the other side and, whoever's kind of, helping him out in his cabinet. We know there's he's got a lot of people around him that just they hate God and they hate what God's word has to say. And then we look around this month and it's Pride Month. And, we look around at, like I said, you've got pro-life Christians being, thrown in jail and stuff. And just so many things around us that can make you feel just disheartened and make you want to take Curtis Chang's bad advice and just turn the TV off and not watch the debate and not engage in politics and not talk to anybody about the gospel and go lay in your bed and cry, right? I mean, this is the thing, though. Here's the thing. God has said that he changes hearts. He changes hearts. Read with me Ezekiel chapter 36, verses 26 and 27. This should be familiar for most of you. And I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh, and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and be careful to obey my rules. Now, what's interesting in this passage is that the people who are the recipients of this prophecy are already just God-hating people, most of them, right? They have rebelled against God. They've shook their fist at him. They're just openly in rebellion to God. And then God comes along and he gives the solution to their depravity, to their sinfulness, to their wickedness. What does he say? I will put my spirit within you. I will cause you to obey me, right? I will cause you to walk in my statutes and be careful to obey my rules. That's pretty amazing. And so you might ask me, well, how does that happen? How does that happen? Well, it's when God, in his power, wakes up somebody's heart. It's when God reveals the truth of the gospel to somebody's heart and changes them. And that's what Romans 1 tells us. We were talking about Romans 1 before. Well, just a little bit before the passage that we were speaking about a moment ago in Romans 1:16, we're told that the gospel is the power of God for salvation for all those who believe, to the Jew first and also to the Gentile. So this message is the life-changing power of God. And through this message, through the preaching of this message, people's hearts can change. So yeah, you know what? It might look bad right now, Christian. It might look bad around you. Like I said, you turn on the news and you just want to turn it off. You go outside on the street and you just want to turn around and walk right back inside your house and go right in your bedroom, right? And go to sleep again, right? This is the reality of the situation. But God has said that the gospel is the power of God that changes people's hearts and lives. So you know what? If you want to see people change, if you want to see the hearts of people change and, potentially, hopefully in the future, better candidates and stuff like that, and just a turning in the direction of the culture that we live in, the only way that even stands a chance of happening is through the preaching of the gospel. Okay? And not so that the culture can change ultimately, but so that people can know God. And you know what? As a result of their knowing God, they're going to have new affections and new desires, and they're going to want to do what he wants. And you know what? If we get that gospel message out there, man, God has promised that he will work in the way that he sees fit. All right. Well, we talked about maybe what for some of you could be a depressing topic today, but hopefully there's some hope there at the end. All right. So if you do watch that debate, I hope it is enjoyable, and we will see you next week. Have a good week.